Richards.
Chairman Bear, the next agency for your consideration is Agency 51, the Wyoming Livestock Board. Presenting today is the director, Steve True. He's joined by Dr. Hazel, the state veterinarian, and I believe Ms. Butler, who is their budget analyst.
Right. Director, welcome to the Joint Appropriations Committee. We appreciate your being here and look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have kind of asked everybody to go through their presentation in a particular order. We'd like you to kind of open up and tell us a little bit about your agency, and then we would, or your board here, and we'd like you to get to your exception requests. If you have any, I don't think you have any, so yeah, you do have two?
Yes, sir.
Okay, oh, I misspoke. So we'll get to those, we'll go over those in detail, and then what we'll do is just take general questions from the committee about your board. And with that, I'll have you go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chair, committee members. Good to see all of you, although it's a different forum than I normally see some of you in, but we'll carry on here. Mr. Chairman, quickly, as you asked me to do a quick who we are, what we do, I have a 50,000-foot flyover. I'll try and make this really quick. We are an agency governed by a board of 7 board members. They are all from the livestock industry, appointed by the governor, that oversee our agency. They in turn appoint Dr. Hazel and myself to administrate the agency. Within that group, we've got 116 total employees that I am extremely honored to be able to be the mouthpiece for and speak for them in these type of forums. Broken into 4 units. First unit would be admin. Similar to any other admin unit you've heard, we offer the resources that allow our remote field folks to do the jobs they do around the state. Second, and on our priority preference list, first on our list there would be animal health, which is administered by Dr. Hazel and her staff. They work on all reportable contagious infectious diseases within the state, handle disease investigations, follow up on foreign animal diseases, work with import rules, overseeing our import program for other states importing livestock into our state. And she will elucidate more later on that, but that is the gist of that unit as well. They also deal with the quarantines in the types of diseases that those are necessary. She'll touch on some later, but we will want you to pay some particular attention, and I hope you have some questions about the New World Screw Room for her today and what that might mean for Wyoming. Second, or the third unit would be, it's a joint unit between brand inspection and recording, but I'll break it up into 2. Brand inspection is our 96 folks that are scattered out in every nook and cranny of the state that regulate movement and proof of ownership on livestock in the state. Outstanding individuals, all AWAC employees. Just for the committee's information, in the last several years, we've retired over 400 years of experience from that unit. It's been kind of a brain drain, but we feel extremely lucky in finding young or new folks from the industry that care enough about the industry to pick those jobs up. The second part of that unit is our brand recording unit. In that unit, we have about 29,000 brands, recorded brands in the state of Wyoming today. Those folks deal with those on much the same of a legal basis as property in the documents they need to have for transfer of ownership, rights of survivors, estate changes, those type of things with those brands are dealt with as legal property. Those 2 units are special revenue providing units through brand inspection fees and recording fees. So anything that comes into our special revenue account or anything in the agency that is a fee-based comes through those 2 hardworking units. We also have a small but mighty law enforcement unit of 2. Those 2 gentlemen cover 97,000 square miles. They investigate missing and stolen livestock cases, animal import violations, brand inspection violations. They work, their main job right now in an attempt to multiply our force is they teach county agencies, county sheriff's offices and livestock law and how to conduct those investigations, how to charge those kind of cases. And we have an MOU program granted from the graciousness of this body a few years ago that allows us to offer those agencies the ability to to provide for officers that will work on their own time to do livestock targeted patrol for our people. We currently have 12 counties under that. That MOU, I don't have them written down, but I'll take a pretty good shot at them so that you know in your constituency. We have Bighorn County, Lincoln County, Fremont, Hot Springs, Uinta on the west side of the state. We're negotiating with Sublet. We're not there yet. We have Sheridan County, Natrona County, Crook, Weston, Niobrara, Goshen, and Laramie. We're pretty proud to have the eastern side of the state, the eastern border of the state covered, where those folks are patrolling over there for us all the time. I don't know if I missed anybody there or not. Weston, did I say Weston? And we also, for Representative Harrelson's purview, we had a signed contract with Platt with the previous sheriff, and we waited. I talked to Sheriff Croats earlier this week, and one of my investigators will be meeting with him in the next week or so to put them on board as well.
Director?
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Larson has a point.
Mr. Chairman, Park County?
We do not. If you have, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Senator Larson, if you want to pull some strings over there, we'd be happy to get them in the game.
Okay.
So that
Please continue.
unit, they worked hard with that program, and they've had, I believe, 11 or 13 trainings in the past year with those sheriffs, 3 already for our next fiscal year. They do ride-alongs with those gentlemen, work hard with them. On a side note, tomorrow, I will be at Stock Growers, where we present an honor to 2 deputies every year that my investigators nominate for going above and beyond in livestock law and livestock cases. I guess it won't be a secret, but we're doing two deputies from Goshen County tomorrow. We've done several in the past, and we work hard with those guys, and we try to get their attention, get them in that room where their producers can corner them and surround them and fill their ears full of stuff. So that's something that we try to do, and we're proud to do with those folks. Mr. Chairman, and that would be a quick flyover view, a quick little bit of history. My tenure at this agency will be 11 years at the end of this session. And I just want to point out, since this is a budget committee, that in that time period, we've suffered, like every state agency, went through a lot of cuts as Wyoming has gone up and down. And during that time frame, we've only ever asked for money once, and that was in the previous biennium. At that time, we had some money that went into our brucellosis account to pay for further testing, to bring up the fee schedule for testing for veterinarians that do our brucellosis testing, slaughter plants and sale barns around the state. We also asked at that time for a standalone operating system for Dr. Hazel and her unit to allow us to comply with our confidentiality statutes in 11-18-117. And so you will find as we go along, that's where our biggest exception request lies, and this is in a continuance of that. But that is our, a little history we have there. Side note, and sometimes I do this in public, I don't usually do it here, but I would say that we are less than 0.002% of your general fund budget. So just wanted to share that with you. Mr. Chairman, we did turn in a substantive federal impact statement. We had no reaction to HR 1, but we are having some effects off some other actions, and with your pleasure, I would like to defer to Dr. Hazel and let her present that to you at this time.
Please, Dr. Hazel, welcome.
Representative Mayor, Chairman, Committee, thank you so much. What I'd like to explain a little bit about is our impact from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Shouldn't even try to say that, but from that act.
HR 1.
Got it. We were talking back and forth. Anyway, so just a little bit about that. First of all, we are a relatively small animal health agency in relationship to other states across the U.S. There are 3 veterinarians on our staff. That's it, to cover the entire state. What it used to be is that we worked in cooperation with our APHIS partners, our Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service partners. They helped us enforce state rules because our staff is so small. We were also able to maintain a relatively small budget because we depended upon the help of our partners through APHIS. When the reorganization occurred of USDA, and we understand the need to support that, and we agree that the reorganization needed to occur, but with that reorganization of USDA, APHIS suffered a tremendous loss with 20% of their staff. But that also meant that Wyoming lost 5 animal health staff out of the Wyoming APHIS Veterinary Service folks. With that, we lost their veterinarians and three veterinarians and 2 animal health staff from APHIS. There are no veterinarians now from APHIS that help us cover the state of Wyoming, which means that our 3 veterinarians, in addition to the administrative responsibilities that I have and that my assistant state vet has, we now have to cover the entire state for all animal health responsibilities on our own. We no longer have the support of our veterinary services staff because they are gone and they will not be replaced. So that being said, we have to decide what can we cover and what can we not. With the emerging disease threats that we have, as you know, New World screwworm is an emerging disease threat that we're all trying to prepare for. We have other diseases like equine herpes, which you've heard about recently in the news. As a result of equine herpes, we had many of our event centers across the state, our indoor event centers, closed down to help us respond to EHV1. So their communities suffered the impact of having a closed facility. Their events were canceled. But we work with all those people to make sure that this was a smooth transition in doing this and to address any concerns they had. We have avian influenza that is still occurring across the state in wildlife and domestic species. We have brucellosis. We have the ongoing things that occur every day, but there are 3 of us to cover everything now. So we have to cut back on our education to our veterinarians. We have to cut back on our visits to livestock markets. We don't respond as quickly as we used to. And we don't foresee that changing without APHIS's support unless we can do something else within our agency. So those are some of the impacts. It's outlined in what we supplied for you. But the workload change also, because we are still trying to cover more than we know that we can do, it does cause burnout in some of our employees, I'll be honest. We put in more time in the last year than we have in, basically total for the last 4. The 3 of us have put in more hours this year than we've ever had to put in on an annual basis. We work on a salary basis. We're not asking for an increase in salary. We're just trying to figure out how do we divide this up and what's important for the state of Wyoming. What can we let go and what needs to continue? And unfortunately, the one thing that we can let go that we don't want to let go, we'll probably have to, is education of our producers and our veterinarians, because that is a very time-consuming thing, and we have to attend to the emergencies first. Keeping in mind that whenever there is an emergency, like avian influenza or New World screwworm, we drop everything else that we're doing to go focus on that emergency. I also want to add one more thing about this, is that while our veterinary services, our APHIS folks from USDA were essential to us in maintaining our state regulations, they also still, actually to this day, they still give us funding through our cooperative agreements for response to our animal health disease events that we have. The only funding you'll see in this budget for an animal health event is for brucellosis. We don't have any funding in our budget for any disease in this state or any other species in this state except brucellosis and Bovine. Everything else is federally supported funding. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for the veterinarian? Representative Alaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome being here. It's very good to see you guys. I want to talk some about our EID tags. I want to know, a year ago, we passed 11-18-117 into law, and that required you to ask every state that Wyoming cattle went to ask them for an MOU to where our producers are not going to be forced into following a national EID tag. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How many have you contacted and how's that going?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Alaman, we narrow that down a little bit because it's not any state we send cattle to. We sent about 5 head to Alabama a few years ago. I'm not making a deal with Alabama. They don't have a brand program. There's no way they could reciprocate on the one exemption in that rule is that's usable is a brand could be considered official individual ID under certain circumstances if agreed to by the shipping and receiving state. So we narrowed that down to the brand inspection states that we felt could actually reciprocate with us in that attempt. I would say we've met with all of the states, brand states, except for Arizona, Oregon, neither of which have a full bore program, and Arizona, which has a self-inspection program that doesn't fly for us to be able to reciprocate in that movement. But we reached out to all the other states, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Montana, Nebraska, Colorado, New Mexico, I think gets the list. We have an MOU with Utah. Everybody else is a hard no. They're those other states, partners to us and the agencies. It's typically not our role to tell you what the public comment was, but the anecdotes we got back from our counterparts was their state producer groups told them, we're moving ahead, we're ready to go with this rule. So they were a no in forming that MOU. We do have a narrow agreement with Utah. We can move certain of those classes of cattle back and forth. Be happy to provide that MOU to any of you that want to see it. But to be known that each state then has their own import rules that we still have to abide with. If we're sending cattle to Utah, they've got rules. We've got rules for Utah cattle coming here. That's all covered within that MOU, but we can use that brand exemption for those movements and for certain classes of cattle. It's pretty narrow, but none of the other states were willing to try it on. I would say that Nebraska has some pending legislation that may turn their brand program completely upside down. They would be difficult, they and South Dakota anyway, because they are split states. South Dakota goes to the river, to Pierre, and Nebraska goes a little west of, or east of Ogallala with brand areas, and then it's a non-brand zone after that. So we understand from those states, they wouldn't know how to manage that within their own borders. So, but, North Dakota, we did visit with North Dakota. I actually presented to them personally, but they didn't have any interest either. So that's where that stands at this time. We have one state. We didn't try California. I didn't think that was useful. Each of my time I had a conversation with them, with my counterpart there, but we did not try them officially. But I did, that is the responses we've gotten. And just, I've had a few other folks say all states we ship cattle to, but Mr. Chairman, and this is probably not a good public comment, but I think Senator Driscoll at least can probably relate to this. We're not gonna ask for Kentucky cattle on an MOU. I wanna know what's coming from Kentucky, and I want them to meet all standards, federal and state import before those southeasterns show up, just because of the way they commingle cattle down there before they ship them anywhere. So that's where we're at, Representative. I hope that answers your question.
Follow-up?
Follow-up, please. What departments did you email them or did you call them? How did you correspond with them? And what departments did you correspond with?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Alaman, we have talked to both my type of counterpart, a director or animal industry head, so to speak. We've talked to Dr. Hazel's counterparts because those are the folks that are dealing with the rules. And, pardon? The departments of ag in most of those states are over the state vet and the brand program. So we've talked to secretaries of ag, everybody up and down the chain in those conversations. And in a few cases, we would talk to our counterparts, they'd say, okay, we'll run it up our chain. And then they would come back with a no.
Follow-up, Representative Alamand.
Thank you, sir. So most of this was done through emails. Would you send me a copy of the emails and their responses and who the emails went to, please? I'm not doubting you at all. I just want to see, I have so many producers who are very concerned. They want to get back to the shield, the tattoo, and the metal tags. And I understand do you know how many producers would use those tags if the metal tags were available instead of the EID tags?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Alaman, to your first question, we talked to a lot of those folks on the phone. Dr. Hazel met with a lot of them at the vet meetings and spoke to the other state vets. And I probably talked to, of those states I've listed, I talked to 6 of them at least on the phone, but I can certainly provide you with the emails we've done with that. As a matter of fact, we just reported to Joint Ag, which was a part of that bill that passed last year on that, but I did not include the email chains in that, but I will provide those to you. Second answer, I don't know how many. We've been using, Dr. Hazel could give you a better count of how many EID tags the state producers have been using over several years. I don't know how many would use the metal tag if there were one available.
Doctor, would you like to opine?
Maybe. Chairman Bear, Representative Alaman. I think part of it relates back to these states are very concerned about animal disease traceability. And they're very willing to comply with the 840 tag rule. And that's where all this relates back to, is animal disease traceability and the ability for us to be able to transfer that data immediately through the software systems that we have for traceability purposes. And that's the purpose of the EID tag. And I think that's all I can comment at this time.
Can you do the rough head count?
Yes, absolutely can. So with regards to EID tags, we actually started distributing EID tags in the state of Wyoming in 2013. And we distributed over 100,000 tags, at least 100,000 tags every year since then, since 2013, within the state of Wyoming for use by our veterinarians for brucellosis vaccination at our livestock markets for interstate movement for brucellosis testing. We've done well over 500,000 tags in the state of Wyoming, basically since that time period. And so they've been utilized since 2013 at least for movement purposes in the state of Wyoming and vaccination purposes.
I won't be much longer.
That's all right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Representative
sorry.
Alaman, please.
So you've used 500,000 tags. I understand that, and I know this is sheep and things get brand inspected more than once, but there's been 1.2 million brand inspections per year. Is that correct? And if so, I would think there's quite a few people not using tags.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative. Yeah, it's important to note, number one, in the EID tag, as far as the traceability rule, that's only required in certain classes of cattle. Breeding cattle, 18 months of age or older, dairy cattle, rodeo cattle, exhibition cattle. It's not required in calves, it's not required in yearlings or feeders or stockers. So I'm having a little difficulty trying to correlate how many cattle we look at, because brand inspection is a whole different cat than that ADT or CVI, certificates of veterinary inspection, or interstate transport. We looked at all forms last year, 1.6 million head of cattle. But our brand inspectors don't look at those tags. It's been offered several times in several different venues that, will the EID tag replace the brand? Not here. That EID tag is one pair of wire cutters away from going away. The brand is forever on that animal. So as for a means of proof of identification, that's not their role, but their role is for, as Dr. Hazel said, traceability. And I would note that a lot of the producers in the state use them in their own programs. I come from the feedlot world, as some of you know, and every feedlot I was at, we used EID tags, either for value-added programs or just the ability to monitor conversion rates and rates of gain on different groups of cattle, and how to sort for implant and sort for shipping. We used EID tags for that because it scanned them when they went through the chute, took the weight, said this one goes in the big cut, you're gonna sell them 20 days quicker. That sort of action's been going on with EID tags for a long time. And having said that, I want to make sure that we're real clear, there's a separation between that program that we used and that tag. All that EID tag has is a series of numbers, no other data. It's how you use that in your own program, or what else it's done for in that way. That's the only place there's any data. Any data in these tags that we're placing in, would be placing a cow's ear today in order to ship her to Nebraska is just that that number went from Wyoming to Nebraska. In case she turns up hot or in a hot herd in Nebraska, now we can maybe trace her back to the home herd. So it's important to always remember that that tag is just a series of numbers. There's no electronic widget in there that's taking any other information. It's just a series of numbers. Same as that metal tag was just a series of numbers.
Representative Element.
I'm sorry, one more. If it's just a series of numbers, why did we get rid of the old brucellosis tag? Because that was no more than a series of numbers. They had the shield in their ear, then a series of numbers on the tags. The brucellosis tag stuck in and held well. I miss them.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Alleman, you're gonna not like the answer to this question, but we have our brucellosis rules, an update on our brucellosis rules sitting right now on my board's desk. And there is an ex parte executive order that says an appointed officer can't talk about a rule that's out there. So I can't talk about brucellosis as far as tags or anything like that today. Neither Dr. Hazel nor I nor any board member could do that today because of that executive order. So I can't speak to that answer today, but stay tuned. The board will act on that here, I think, in January, and I'll be able to answer your questions.
All right, further questions? I have a question. This is a little bit foreign to me. It's not my area of expertise, but Dr. Hazel, you had said that this is for traceability. I think what the good representative was trying to get at when he was talking about brand inspections is what is the quantity out there and how many of them are on EID tags? Because my understanding is if you're gonna have effective traceability, you've got to have 87% or so with those tags. So I guess my question, first of all, is where's the state of Wyoming at as far as percentage to where it could be useful in that way? And where are our neighbor states at, or those that we're trying to do an MOU with?
Chairman Bear, a couple things here. First, it's very important not to blur the lines between when you see the information about that says that they have to have a certain percentage of tags to be effective. It's very important that you don't blur the lines between when you're talking about the classes of cattle. So when we're talking about moving a group of feedlot cattle, we have traceability on that group because it goes to that feedlot. It gets that EID tag at that feedlot. We know the source of those cattle. They may not have an EID tag when they leave their state of origin, but when they get there, that feedlot maintains those records of where those cattle come from. So just because they don't have an EID tag doesn't mean they aren't traceable per se. They do get an EID tag when they arrive. We don't look at the number of cattle within our state or the percentage of cattle within our state that have EID tags. The ones that have EID tags are the ones that transmit disease. So we're worried about those adults. We're worried about brucellosis. We're worried about tuberculosis. The ones that are at risk of disease are the ones that we are currently tagging. But we don't look at a percentage of those animals that are tagged per se. We don't focus on percentages. We focus on the risk of those animals to disease, not the number that have an EID tag. So as far as an actual percentage of animals in our state that have EID tags, I can't give you that percentage. I can tell you that we use just over 300,000 tags per year as a whole in our cattle, but I can't tell you what percentage of those leave the state because Wyoming is primarily an export state, meaning almost every bovine in this state, if she's to be, or he, if it is to be slaughtered, if it is going out for breeding purposes, for feeding purposes, will leave the state. We don't have the capability to feed and slaughter the cattle we produce. So the majority of our cattle leave the state. We're an export state. Within our state alone, we use just over 300,000 EID tags per year. I don't know what percentage of those animals actually stay in the state. Couldn't tell you that. As far as our neighbors and what percentage of their livestock or their cattle have EID tags, not a number that we look at. I could not answer that question for you. I'm not sure that we have any state that can tell you exactly the percentage of bovine in that state that have EID tags, unless they have a much more mandatory program than what we have.
You travel the state. I just want your best guess. What do you think we're at? 300,000 a year. And I don't mean to blur the line between different types of cattle. I would like to know within that type that we are requiring EID tags, Of course, the state doesn't have that requirement because of our laws, but within that group that the federal government would like to have those EID tags, what percentage do we have?
Chairman Bear, I can
best,
tell you.
your best guess, I'm sorry.
Chairman Bear, so within the designated surveillance area of Wyoming, I can tell you that in this, and the reason I'm saying this is keeping in mind that an animal that has a metal tag that was placed before November of 2024, that metal tag is grandfathered in until that animal dies. So there are a percentage of our adult animals, adult cattle right now, that still have metal tags because it was put in before November of 2024. So you need to keep that in mind. That being said, every animal in the DSA, in Wyoming's designated surveillance area, every female animal that leaves there has an EID tag or a metal tag, period. So 100% of the animals in the DSA that are breeding animals, females specifically, have official ID. That I can tell you. But I can't tell you that they're all EID tags. But 100% have official identification. That I can tell you.
So that official identification could be a tattoo, is that right?
Chairman Bear, no, a tattoo is only for brucellosis vaccination.
Okay.
It's not an individual ID, it's notification of brucellosis vaccination. So it's
Right.
not an official ID per se.
Right, but that's what the DSA is about, right? Is that a brucellosis designated area?
That's correct, yes.
So within that area, 100% of them have a tattoo is what I'm trying to get at.
They should, but if it's legible is the question,
Mm-hmm.
highly questionable.
So I guess my line of questioning would be if you take an 18-month younger, whatever that group is, and you sell it out of state, and it had an EID tag, and it fell out, and they did have a legible tattoo, what would that out-of-state outfit do with that calf?
So Representative Bear, it has to have an EID tag to leave the state. If it arrives at its destination, they don't necessarily check those EID tags. It depends on where they're going. If they're going to a livestock market, they're going to put another tag in that animal's ear.
As long
Okay.
as it's got a legible tattoo for brucellosis, otherwise something else would happen, right?
So it's very important here, Chairman Bear, very important to understand that each state has import regulations and rules. They may never look at that brucellosis vaccination tattoo. It just depends on the importation rules of that state. So the tattoo isn't really part of the official identification process, unless we're talking about brucellosis vaccination, not interstate movement.
Again, so if it didn't have, the tag got torn out, wasn't on there, whatever, didn't have a tag, they'd put a tag on it at that point, right?
Chairman Bear, that is correct, yes.
Unless it didn't have a legible, then they would want to send it back to the state it came from, most likely, right?
Chairman Bear, no, that's not necessarily true. It really depends on the import rules of that state,
Right,
so not necessarily true, no.
okay, depending on their rules,
Correct,
okay,
yes.
all right?
But I would, Chairman Bear, continue to answer, you ask about how many EID tags or percentage of cattle in our state. In the DSA, I can guarantee you that whatever leaves the DSA has official identification. Outside of the DSA, so basically the eastern half of our state, anything that is moving interstate has official identification. We have a large percentage of grazing during the summer in the eastern half of our state. Tremendous percentage of animals that come in strictly for grazing purposes, and then they go home. Those animals also have official identification. As far as the permanent cattle that we have in our state, anything that crosses state lines has official ID. What percentage that is, I can't even guess. I honestly don't know. I can't give you a guess.
And Director, along this same line of questioning, I have to wonder about these other states. I know you've reached out to them. I know I believe in you, that you've gone out and done what the law said you were supposed to do on the MOUs. But I just find it hard to believe that there's that many people out there that really believe they should trust the federal government. I just have to make that statement. So I'm wondering if there isn't something else going on. You had mentioned that, I think it was Nebraska, has something going on. Can you just elaborate on what that was?
Mr. Chairman, they have and I don't want to stick my nose in their political system very far. They have a bill that was amended 131 times in the last session to change their brand inspection rules. Because of their split state, it's a complicated system. A lot of people either calve in the western half of the state and then feed where there's not brand inspection, or vice versa. And they feel they're getting double dipped, in some cases on a brand inspection fee. So they feedlots there, rather than look at a case by case. If we were to go to Dinklage and Torrington and they ship cattle, we're gonna go look at everyone off the scale and brand inspect each animal. In Nebraska, they're gonna take a look at the whole pen, and they're gonna use a percentage of their capacity and charge them off of that and write the papers. They don't look at them again. They look at them in, but not out. And so they keep fiddling with those ratios and how that works. And the final amended version, basically, and their small system is totally funded off of those fees. The big bite of their fees have been in that feedlot assessment type inspection. If the last amended version of that bill would basically take enough money away that would wreck the agency. It died on the table, but it'll be the first up in the next session. So I don't know where that'll go.
Very different from what we're talking about.
It's a very different system. Every state's brand inspection system is quite a bit different.
Yeah.
We're closest to New Mexico of any other state in the nation.
I think the questioning that Representative Alaman and I are getting at is, we've passed a couple of laws in this state. Back in 2021, I think we passed a law where it's an option. It's not a requirement. And Doctor, you've been using it as you've been using the statement official ID. And I'm curious, how are we really obeying the laws that we have? And are those laws now getting to where they're a problem enforcing when the federal government is trying to enforce something else? Are we getting a contradiction here in the state of Wyoming, or is everybody just happy to go ahead and do the choice of EID?
Mr. Chairman, the way I would approach that is the EID under the federal rule 86 is the animal disease traceability rule. That's interstate movement. We don't control interstate movement. We don't control what any other state does. At this time in Wyoming, we don't have another option on our plate unless we can get a brand MOU like that. And we're kind of, again, I'm under that executive order, but I'd say we're kind of under a rock and a hard place because of our brucellosis program, which is also a federal program. And in official vaccinate, we'll have a tattoo and a tag. We don't have another tag available because it was always a federal brucellosis tag, be it metal, be it EID. So we're in a place of searching is where I will put that right now as to how that works. But it's important to understand that EID, as far as animal disease traceability, that's a federal rule, and other states' import rules that require our cattle and our producers to comply to move their cattle into those states or interstate. We just don't have the power to direct interstate movement anywhere. We can only do what comes in here and what happens in here. And like I said, we're searching for an answer within the state at this point in time.
Representative Alaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do apologize, but this is the number one concern that my agriculture environment is worried about. And I also believe very much in you guys. I just have one final question. I have many questions. We could be here all evening, but my one final question is, when we bleed cattle for brucellosis, because we could have some or some negatives, non-positives, I guess is what we call them. Are we using the federal government's EID tags? Is that what we're using when we bleed cattle today?
I think that's a question for Dr. Hazel, if you'd go ahead. Please.
Chairman Bear, Representative Allamand. When an animal is, when the veterinarian is performing a regulatory test on an animal, a regulatory test typically implies that it is a program that is run by the federal government. When that veterinarian tests that bovine for brucellosis, they record the official identification, which is either an EID tag or the metal tag that that animal already has that was applied prior to November of 2024. If it does not have a tag at all when the veterinarian bleeds that animal, they are legally required to apply an EID tag for that to that animal. Okay.
Director, I think we'll go ahead and get moving along into your budget. Oh. Go ahead, Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. First, thank you very much for all the strides you guys have taken. I have watched you go through the bumps, going the similar route with our brand inspection, and I was one of the ones that was pretty skeptical, and I got to tell you, it's pretty nice in the field to get a printed brand certificate that's done right and accessible easily. You've come a long, long ways, and looks like you're going further. Hopefully we can get all your brands on it where we can pull it the same way across on the rest of it somewhere soon. I would hope you'd come to us for some money and streamline that end. Along that line, and this goes back to directly on the health and it's probably to the vet, screwworm's having a major impact on particularly the cow-calf and the feeder operators. Most of Wyoming doesn't think it affects them, but it's amazing how many cattle come out of the South Country North just the way they are out of South. What are your thoughts and how are we prepared to look at potentially Texas cattle coming up? Some of those southern cattle coming here and the potential that if there's an outbreak down there that we end up with one up here and what our plans are for it.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Driscoll, I'm going to ask Dr. Hazel to answer the question, but first I want to say you should feel somewhat protected in that she's co-chair of a couple of the big screwworm committees and has worked that border in Texas and has an expertise there that most of the northern state vets don't have. With that, I will get out of the way and let her answer that question.
Representative Bear, Senator Driscoll. So I came here from Texas. I spent 7 years on the border as director of the USDA Cattle Fever Tick Eradication Program before I came back to Wyoming, or came to Wyoming. And thankful for that experience, that I can address the New World screwworm situation. So there is a working group of state animal health officials, basically state veterinarians. We have worked together to create a cohesive, fairly uniform response for all states in the United States whenever there is an outbreak if an outbreak occurs in Texas. How our states will respond across the US is fairly uniform. We have that response in writing, happy to share it with those who would like to see it if that opportunity should arise. But so we have a response in place. We are working very closely with our southern states as well. They all also have individual state response plans that are a little bit more stringent than ours are in the northern states because they want to make sure that it does not escape their state. They have a very strong plan in place. And we are also very fortunate that it will not survive above 7,000 feet, and it will not last in an area where you have temperatures below 46 degrees, I believe, for a period of time. But we have that response plan in place. The most difficult thing for us, should we have New World screwworm in our state, will be a couple things. Number one, the number of employees we have will not be sufficient to help cover the entire state, obviously. We will have to work very hard within our animal health department to probably train our brand inspectors to do inspections on any quarantines that should occur. Should a quarantine have to occur, it would probably be on a county-wide basis, most likely, using county lines should that quarantine occur. It will not quarantine the entire state, hopefully just a certain county or a certain area. But anything that leaves that county will typically have to be inspected, treated and inspected. So we foresee training our brand inspectors or extension or something else to help with those quarantines. That's in our plan at this point in time. It will also be a costly endeavor, either to the state or to the producers, however you want to look at that, or actually both. The treatments are out there. We do have some now federally approved treatments, but they're not cheap. They are expensive treatments, and every animal has to be treated. So somebody has to cover that cost, whether it's the producer or if the state tries to help, whatever. It will be a very expensive treatment when it occurs, especially if you have a herd of 200 or 300 cows. Our biggest concern is that should we have New World screwworm be found on communal grazing, so if we have it on BLM land or Forest Service land, as I often say, a lot of those cows are not looked at for a couple months at a time, other than by God. And that is a fact on some of our BLM leases. Should it happen to occur in some of those cattle out on BLM grazing land, we may not catch it right away. It may be several weeks before it's noticed, and then it will spread quickly during the right season. So those are concerns that we have to figure out how to address currently. But we do have a written plan in place and a tentative plan. So, yes.
Mr. Chairman, follow. Thank you very much. You hit it right on the head where I was at, because that's what I was asking. These yearling operations tend to bring not dozens, but thousands of head of cattle into the state. I'm thankful they do it. I don't have heartburn at all with them, but when it gets going in the summertime, it can be tough, and it can have immense impacts, and that's part of where I was at. Who's going to pay for treatment when it comes? Because summertime, we're not going to stop it. Obviously, the weather gets the rest of the time, but I do think we ought to be, I'd like to also ask if you see anything else on the horizon that we ought to be looking at, and then I'll string question you a little, looking at Director True, a little update on our theft, where we're at in the state and what's going on. And I don't have anything, I'm not picking at any bones. I don't have a clue what's going on. I watch the stray list and not much else, and I watch this theft deal in South Dakota because I'm close to it. But kind of what's happening in Wyoming and how you feel you're at, obviously the value of cattle in particular, the thefts that change. Last is a number of years ago, I got it where brand renewals were certified mail, and one of my colleagues erased that later on. What would be your feeling? I can tell you, for me, I'm more than happy to give $15 on my brand to have it come back certified instead of, if a mailbox changes, where certified tends to make it to you. Even first-class mail, if you've changed a box number, or in our case, my brother was in Arizona and it went somewhere else, certified tends to find its way home to you. What would be your thoughts? Because I'm willing to pay for it. I'm not asking the state to pay for that, but for us, our livelihood depends on our brands. Having been one of the ones that's lost them and been at your guys' mercy, what you helped us on, I think is really important when you've got millions of dollars of cattle, that we make dang sure that the people that rightfully want to renew them have a full deal of being able to do it. So thank you in advance.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Driscoll, I'm going to go with the brand certified mail first. Our brand commissioner would tell you that he doesn't like it because he thinks people run from certified mail in some cases. We get some back that people just didn't open. It costs us in a big renewal year between $15,000 and $20,000 to do that certified mailing. But it's a cost of doing business. It's in the statute. We deal with it. On as far as missing and theft in Wyoming, I'm gonna, rather than knock on my head, I'll knock on your nice table. The last 2 years, I think, as a part of an outgrowth, and this is anecdotal, I don't have data to support it at this point, due to that MOU program with our county sheriffs, our theft reports have gone down by 50%, theft and missing reports. And I think that's what we were after. I've told prior groups in this room that I can't measure deterrence for you, but if I can send those guys somewhere else, I'm happy. And I think having those sheriffs out there with a badge on the door on those back country roads is making a few of the folks that would take advantage of you at this time say, maybe I don't know when or where he's going to show up again. On that same note, if I look nationally in this market, producers are extremely vulnerable. And it doesn't matter if you're a brand state or a non-brand state. I'm guessing we're probably slipping more cattle from those BLM, those allotments than are being reported. The problem we get with those is a time lag. As Dr. Hazel said, a lot of times they're not seen regularly. We may get a report in October when they gather that says last time I saw them was June 30th, and I'm missing 25 head. And we ask for that. Let us know now, let us know as soon as you know, as a risk management tool, but in those cases, they have certainly not had a chance to fly it or ride all the draws, and look for deads or little packages that might still be out there. So I think it's still going on. You're extremely vulnerable. It's a cash commodity. It's not like stealing my TV and getting 10 cents on the buck. If I can get that yearling stolen and get him to Iowa, I'm going to get every bit he's worth. And so we're watching all the time, and that's why we're really glad to trying to surround our borders with that MOU. And those sheriff's offices on the east side are making some fantastic number of stops of trailers and outfits and checking for brand papers and checking to make sure that everything matches. And that's the only way we're gonna do it. With two guys, we're never gonna be in the right place at the right time. But if we've got 50, 60 deputies out there, they're gonna be in the right place at some point, and then that media is gonna help that deterrence level even higher. So I'm pleasantly surprised at these numbers on our reports. I think there are probably a few more missings that we're not hearing about still, but numbers are looking better.
Follow-up, go ahead.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Kudos to you. You did exactly what I was hoping. And once again, highlight, thank you for training our deputies and getting our local law enforcement. I think you guys have done great with not a whole lot. I think it's a huge deal. Back to my question on the certified mail was, are you allowed in statute to put a box on there that I paid for it? I'm not asking for you because I don't want to put a burden on the state. But is there a spot where I could do a deal that says, look, when I renew my brand, I'll give you $15 or $25, and I asked for it to be sent certified if the renewal is not done on time. That was what I was looking at, not forcing it on anyone else. Just make it where your automated system, when it goes out, says Bear Lodge Cattle Company's checked the box. They'd like a certified to go out if this thing's not renewed on time. They've paid for it, return receipt. That way I don't flinch from it. I go pick mine up. First thing when I get one from the IRS, first thing I do is open it up because I want to know if they're about to levy on me. I've been down that path. But my end is, for us, it's life and death. And we've got a lot of family members and part of them are scattered. And I think it's incredibly important. I look at me, I'm getting near the end of my deal of running it. 90% of your guys' correspondence still comes to me, yep, my son runs our ranch. And it gets where it's really important that maybe I disappear next week and my brands come up and they don't get the mail checked and done right. Yet if it comes certified, they know dang well they better pull it off. So I'm just searching for ways to make sure, not for your mess up, for my mess up, that it's covered and done as good as I can.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Driscoll, at this point, we do not have that opt-in, opt-out. Up front, our statute requires that we send out that mailing, and then when we get back, then we send those out certified. Any mail we get back is undelivered or refused, then we send that out. So we could probably do something like that. I'll check with the folks back in the office and see if there's a way we can put an opt-in, opt-out. And we could probably flag it in your account if you wanted that, so that it would just, your renewal would go out certified if you wanted that. But at this point, we just do what the statute requires us to do, which is send one out and then send another certified out to those that didn't respond.
Mr. Chairman, thank you from the bottom of my heart. That, like I said, that's been a key issue of mine for years. I think it was prior to you, we lost all our brands 1 year out of them going to Arizona and someone not getting them filled out and sent in, and it's of critical. And so that if you guys could do that, I think a vast majority would say we don't want to spend money and we don't care. But guys like me, that it really does matter, that it's probably as important as part of our real estate is to us. So thank you.
Okay, please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, following your protocol, our first two requests are TRP. So
Yeah, and you can skip right by those.
skip right by
Yep.
those. So if you want to turn to page 15, you will see an exception request. If I put on my glasses, I could see it too, for ADA compliance widgets in our agency website. It's priority number 2 on our priority list. It will be a recurring payment, and it will be $3,600 per biennium.
Any questions on this? We've already kind of covered this in our discussion with ETS, so I think you can move on.
So, Mr. Chairman, the next place would be on page 24, which is the exception request for license renewal for Dr. Hazel's Animal Health Core 1 operating system. That's each biennium, that they do an annual percentage increase on their license agreement, but they break it up for us into a biennial status to match our budgeting, and so that's what That 14,893 is what it would cost us to relicense her program to maintain our state's confidentiality and her data animal health records.
Any questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, my last three exception requests are TRP, so that's all we've got.
All right. General questions or comments for the director? Representative Sherwood, I'll get to you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm going back to the very beginning here, so just draw a big old circle. In thinking about the federal action and the reorganization of the USDA, this is a huge red flag to me. This is like, we're gonna burn people out, we're not gonna be able to cover, we're not gonna be able to respond in a timely manner in emergency. All these worst case scenarios. Well, I appreciate so much that you have run such a lean organization and have done so much with so little. I am curious on what the conversation was in asking this committee for resources to cover this shortfall. Maybe it's a limited thing, who knows, right? But I am concerned that we're gonna burn out our staff and not be able to do our job and serve the livestock community on this. And so have you considered asking us for additional FTEs?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, how do I want to put this? So the bulk of these actions happened after most of the submission of our budget. We did supply some numbers to a couple of your counterparts that asked us after a joint ag meeting, what would it take to put another FTE in that office? We've got some of those numbers available if you want to see them. We didn't ask for it. We're just supplying the information that they brought to us. But again, we may well have, if some of this would have happened 9-10 months ago, we might have seen the wreck coming. I appreciate your interest in our staff. I just want to share with you that my board offered a commendation for those 3 vets this summer, but they can't eat that plaque and they can't sleep on it when they're driving up and down the highway. So they have busted their tails for you and the constituents in the state. We'd love to see them get some help, and we don't know what's going to happen with the USDA. We're not even going to try and speak to that if they'll reload any of those positions or not. I have not a clue.
Follow-up? Go ahead, Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, and maybe this is a question for staff, do we anticipate a letter from Joint Ag on this issue? And the folks that we lost, are they still in the state, and is there funding that we could find for contract employment? Thank you.
Director Richards?
We're looking for letters, but I'll get right back to you. I don't believe there is one.
Okay. Director? True?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that the committee provided you a letter. These were individuals on the committee that said they may talk to you individually.
Okay. Director Richards?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we've confirmed there is no committee letter.
Okay. Follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I feel like a little badger on this issue. Our people are our greatest assets. And I don't think it's realistic for us to expect you to do the same level of work with less resources, especially when it wasn't a decision that we made or that you made, right? This is something we've inherited. And so while I don't have an automatic solution today, I would just ask my committee members to work with me to think about this and think of some creative ways that we could at least address this issue in the short term while we see what happens with the USDA.
Director Hibbard?
Mr. Chairman, just quickly, and Representative Sherwood, again, we appreciate that, and we bring all this information, Dr. Hazel's update with that and the screwworm report, all of that to you as an FYI today. That's all sitting out there in front of us, and we don't know where any of that's going to go. So appreciate your interest.
Thank you, Director True. Director Hibbard?
Mr. Chairman, with all grace, I would like to have the agency resubmit their special revenue table on page 56. I was reviewing it and it's disconnected, but I think there's an opportunity for us to correct that so that you can operate on a good table.
Okay. All right. We'd ask that you revise that, maybe get with Director Hibbard and give us some new information on that. That would help us make better decisions. Okay? So if you have any questions. All right. Further questions, comments, concerns from the committee? All right. I would just like to say one thing. I've heard rumors that another state, Nevada in particular, is beginning to tax cattle, that they're potentially using the EID tags as a method to track that tax, to make sure they're getting all of their money. And so I have concerns. We've passed a couple of bills. I think the body that represents the people, the legislature, has been pretty clear that Wyoming does trust its neighbors, but it doesn't trust the federal government. So I think we're going to continue asking you to pursue this as best you can. I can tell you that I'm going to ask our leadership to go out and talk to the leadership of these other states, because it just concerns me that we're kind of getting this roadblock that they just want to go down this path and not look for other options. And it is an optional thing. Anybody can use an EID tag that wants to with the current Wyoming law. It's just that those who don't trust the federal government can go a different route. So with that, I'll just say we appreciate you being here, and we may have some follow-up. We definitely want to get those tables updated if we could, and thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman. Committee?
All right. All right, Mr. Richards, I'd like to take a brief recess for the committee to meet and discuss these bills briefly amongst ourselves, and then we'll come back out and have you present the bills, if that would be all right.
Mr. Chairman, absolutely. Tamara from LSO, the General Counsel, will be presenting the first two bills, and then I believe Representative Sherwood is going to present her two bills.
Perfect. So I think, Co-Chair, you think 15 minutes? So we'll take a recess for 15 minutes now. And committee, I'm going to have you meet us over in the break room. Representative Harrelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just for all of the citizens watching, the people watching, when we do pull up that working draft, 26 LSO 0310, you're going to be looking for working draft 0.5, and it will be updated on our webpage, and that'll have just a couple corrections to that bill draft that you will need to have in front of you, because it'll sound a little different than the one you're holding if you have the older version. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and we'll be in recess for 15 minutes. Okay, Ms. Childress, are we ready to go? All right. All right, we are back in session. Forster, since you're so close, you might as well come on up. Be ready. Just waiting on our staff here. All right, Ms. Ravalli, please come on up. And Mr. Richards, if you'd go ahead and get us started.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the first two bills you'll be hearing were based upon motions on October 31st of the committee, which culminated work over the interim. I think it might be best to take 26 LSO 311 Working Draft 0.4. First, this is the Smoke Buster Module Leader. This is a joint program between State Forestry and the Department of Corrections regarding inmate crew leaders, and I'll turn it over to Tamara Reveley for an explanation of the bill.
Ms. Reveley, please go ahead and give it a start.
Thank you. So again, this is 26 LSO 311, Working Draft 0.4. It's a simple bill, non-codified, 3-page bill. The title provides very specifically what it does. It authorizes positions and provides an appropriation for forestry conservation program inmate crew leader positions. Section 1, subsection A is that appropriation and authorization for 2 full-time employees within the forestry division for purposes of this act. And it's within the Office of State Lands and Investments, of course, where the positions are authorized. They would be effective July 1st, 2026. The first would be effective July 1st, 2026, and the second effective July 1st, 2027. So staggered, hire one on, and then hire another on the next year. The language on page 2, lines 2 through 6, the last sentence says that it's the intent of the legislature that the positions authorized in the subsections be included in OSLI's standard budget. So that means it's the intent that the legislature would have these 2 positions reoccurring going forward. Subsection B is the money. There's appropriated from the general fund $750,000 to the Office of State Land and Investments for the State Forestry Conservation Program inmate crew. This money is to cover the positions that we just discussed, for equipment and support costs, and for hiring, training, and supervising and certifying the positions. Duties would be set by the state forester in coordination with the Department of Corrections, subject to the inmate labor statutes that govern inmate labor in our state. That's Wyoming Statute 716-202. Now, of this, you'll see at the end of this section, $500,000 is intended to be one time, and $250,000 of that $750 is reoccurring. That one-time funding would include crew buggies, trucks, chainsaws, clothing, gear, training, the inmate equipment. This appropriation would be for the biennium, beginning on the effective date of the act and ending June 30th, 2028. It would not be subject to transfer flex authority, and it would revert any remaining funds on June 30th, 2028. Then the last sentence, moving on to page 3, states that 500 of that is intended to be one-time funding.
Okay. Questions for Ms. Ravalli? Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for presenting this bill. One question kind of going on, and I'll ask this of Forrester Norris. July 1st, 2026, the question, sorry, did I mess that up?
No.
Oh, okay.
You have the same question I have.
Okay. July 1st, 2026 eliminates your ability to have this individual for this fire season. Can you speak to effective immediately language and conversation?
Forrester Norris.
Mr. Chairman, that's the one comment I had on this bill was fire season tends to start before July 1st, sometimes it doesn't. With that, it'd be pretty difficult to go ahead and start recruiting during the fire season. So we would be behind to see that. That's up to this body and when the preference would be. It would be recommended if we would want a position in place prior to fire season to possibly align it more effective immediately. And the budget would need to just be double checked on for that salary, that extra couple months. Probably, if it's effective immediately, going to pass a budget by March, right? Move forward with the positions, get it hired by May. So maybe a May, June additional to get it in time.
Go ahead, follow up, Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excellent. So speak to two things then. Number one, the second position, the July 1st, 2027, what date do you want that to look like and be? And then the second question is, maybe directed more to our staff, maybe it would be an opportunity to take a deeper dive and look at the fiscal note and make sure that our fiscal note aligns and applies to this change. Also, with a look at the 500,000, obviously that's a big round number and I know it's kind of an umbrella, but maybe we can drill down a little bit tighter into what exactly is needed for these individuals and get us I guess a tighter fiscal note.
Go ahead, Forrester Norris.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Recommended date, if we would want that position, that second position in time, in place, for example, by June 1st, you would probably want to backtrack that to like an April 1st type of situation, if that makes sense.
Okay, April 1st. Got it. All right, further questions? Mr. Richards.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I at least wanted to provide a little bit of background and history to this request. During the interim, the agency came forward and asked for 6 FTE, $2.25 million, and 1.5 of which would be ongoing. Essentially, what you have done is cut this by 2/3. So rather than 2.25, you've dropped it to 750, and rather than the 1.5 million in one time, you've dropped it to 500,000. In addition, since you've staggered this, meaning one FTE nearly immediately, and the second FTE, the 250,000 was for 2 people for 2 full years. So I don't think there's any additional need for funding to move that back to 2 months on each position.
Okay. Did I hear you, Forrester Norris, say that, or actually it was Ms. Ravalli, did you say that the funding was for the whole team of people, or is it just for these 2 people we're hiring, the equipment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just for these 2 positions and then their associated costs.
Okay. Pricey.
Mr. Chairman, I can assist in helping relook at that one time, because that one time is probably, we're obviously going to need some vehicles, going to need some laptops, minor things like that, but I'm wondering if there's a part of that estimate that may be a crew buggy in there. A crew buggy in there.
Okay.
So,
All right. Yeah, let's get to the bottom of that if we can. I hate to vote on it before we
okay.
really have that answer. So, Director, is there anything you'd like to add to this? It doesn't quite affect you yet, but it will in the future.
Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman Salazar, committee members, I'm Dan Shannon with the Department of Corrections. Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I would add is I just want to assure the committee, Department of Corrections will be supportive and provide the labor necessary to help our citizens. So, thank you.
Knowing we're headed this direction, I know there's some issues with locations and beds and making this a useful product for the state. So please plan ahead and come up with something that really works for all of us then.
Mr. Chairman, Forrester Norris and I will flesh that down.
Okay. Of course, we've got to get it across the finish line too, so we'll start with that. All right. Senator Larson, you first, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So are we going to be changing the dollar request to like 300,000 or, I mean, you probably don't have an estimate right now, but that's a lot of money.
Senator, I think we need to get a refined number. It's gonna come down both on the cost of the employees and the hard costs of equipment. And was somebody over here, was that you, Representative Harrelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for Forrester Norris and as well as our staff. Do we feel like this is something we could probably have a kind of a drilled down idea on by Thursday afternoon or Friday morning?
Director? I'm sorry, Forrester?
No.
Mr. Chairman, absolutely. I am going to be in DC.
Yeah.
Is that okay? That I call in?
Oh,
If you need me? Okay, yes, we can make that happen then.
Yeah, we've got broadband here. Hopefully they do there too. All right, follow up, Senator Larson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think we've discussed this a lot already in some prior meetings. So these new positions are training, a lot of it is kind of for the correctional part. Are there people already out there that already know what they got to do for that type of training? I mean, is there places to find other people that don't need that?
Forrester Norris?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I believe it is my understanding the intent of these positions is to help create a higher level skill set we have crew supervisors, and then we only have one level above that, and that's one module leader. I think this is to help build depth in that module leader, so the smoke busters are available much more frequently, because we're limited right now based on that one position and that person's availability, and it's getting that depth built into the system for further use.
So if I could add to that, Senator, the first couple of years of the 4 years training path, they would be used to back up the people that we already have in the field with the smoke jumper or smoke busters. And then they would be eventually, as they close in on that 4 year training process, we'd start building up a team of prisoners to do another team. So we'd have, but we're 3 years away from that. But we have to start somewhere to get towards that team, that second team, and it starts with getting these leaders trained. I think this allows us to hire from a broader range, to answer your question more specifically, of people that with fewer qualifications, get them in the system and get them started going down this path, and we'd make use of them in the meantime. Go ahead, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, so this is kind of like in the electrical business or something, you're training with somebody. Are there, I guess, you would think there'd be other people out there in other states maybe that are already prepared for this. So is this a specific training for the state of Wyoming?
Forrester Norris?
Absolutely. So these positions are requiring correctional DOC training as well as wildland fire training and specific wildland fire training to take out a crew.
I think more specifically, he's asking about, is there talent that has that, both of that, out there that could be hired today and start off right away, or 2 years from now and start out?
Thank you for the clarification, Chairman. Yes, there is. The state of Nevada, the state of Arizona, there are other programs that are similar that would have skill sets that we could try and recruit from. Okay.
Okay. Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll direct as well for Senator Larson, kind of a conversation. Forrester Norris, with the other two bills that we're going to talk about at the end, ones that change the paid leave hazard pay as well as the retirement plan, do you feel like we could become more desirable to those that could already have the wildland fire training and experience, and then all we have to do is put them through the 5-week training with our DOC side? Is that a way where we might be able to kind of sidestep that 4-year process potentially? We obviously don't have, we can't see into the future, but do you feel like that could possibly make us more appealing to that work group?
Forrester Norris.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, it is definitely going to help us with not only recruitment, but retainment. In order to get to the level, and I think I shared that with you in previous testimony, it takes almost 4.5 years to truly take out a module that we have in full agreement that's secure out on a fire line. And that's a big ask, hence why having some additional benefits that would help retain that position and keep them to want to go to a next level beyond just a crew supervisor, but to be that leader, to take that crew out, definitely is going to help.
Good.
Okay. I'll just remind the committee that we have a threshold of 2/3 introduction vote on any of these bills. So trying to count on the better benefits in order to hire somebody away from another state might be a bit of a stretch. So having multiple horses in the race is probably a good idea, just a suggestion to the committee. But I don't know, maybe we could put some language in there to where it's one or the other, so we don't pass them all if that's the desire of the committee. Just something to think about as we go forward. Got a lot of votes to get this across the finish line, so. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? What's the committee's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Haroldson.
I move that we table this bill till Thursday at end of day.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that we table it until Friday midday. That way, we can get the data and we can present it. We can move the bill and work the bill Friday at noon, or sometime around Friday, before everybody leaves town. Senator Guru.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm just looking over at staff, so we'd be okay on notice requirements, because all we're gonna do is just add a fiscal note on this. We're not changing, or we're changing wording to?
No. Dates and fiscal note.
Dates in the fiscal note, so, but as far as, is that okay then for notice purposes?
Mr. Richards?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is all continuation of one 2-week meeting. The committee also has another alternative, and you could put this off until January. I know some members may not be here on Friday for the entirety of the day, so your discretion, but that is an option in January.
And we could always start with this as our first action in the morning. Okay. I guess just to put a finer point on it, Senator Guru's question is there any notification to the public issues? I don't think the public has seen these drafts, have they? Have they?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, yeah, we
yes,
put them
they've
out
all been
last night.
posted. Yes.
Okay, we put them out last night, so, okay. So we'll correct them and then bring them back on Friday.
And I just want to clarify, Mr. Chairman.
Valley.
If you would like me to work with the state forester or to direct any legislators to work with me to direct these changes, I can bring you back a new version that's already updated if you don't want to amend it.
That'd be
It's the same
helpful.
one.
I think the forester will be calling in from DC, so plan on a little bit earlier start on Friday just to knock this bill out, and we'll go with that without objection. Okay? All right, let's move on to the next bill.
Your next bill up for consideration is 26 LSO 0310, and please be advised, this is working draft 0.5. You had a .4 version that had some inadvertent errors, some mixture of inmate language, and that version can be discarded, so make sure you're working with the .5. This relates to the wildland fire module. Jumping right into the bill, the title states that it relates to the state forester, authorizes positions, and provides an appropriation for wildland fire suppression module. Section 1, again, non-codified law for this whole bill. Section 1 authorizes the positions. It authorizes 12 employee positions within the forestry division for purposes of the section. These positions, of these, 2 shall be full-time employee positions, 2 shall be 9 months seasonal at-will contract employee positions, and 8 shall be 6-month at-will contract employee positions. It's the intent of the legislature that these positions, all 12 of them, would be reoccurring, would become part of the standard budget within OSLI. Now, I will point out for everyone that this at-will language matches the budget books. There are other options that I think might want to be brought to your attention about whether these should be part-time positions or temporary full-time positions. So I'll let that issue be addressed by the state forester or others next. In subsection B is the money from the general fund. It's 1.58 million. It's to OSLI for the wildland fire suppression module, and that includes the positions, all 12, support costs, equipment, costs associated with hiring, training, certifying, and supervising a specialized team to support wildfire suppression and hazardous fuels reduction projects. This appropriation would be beginning July 1st, 2026, and lapsing at the end of the fiscal period. It would not be subject to being flexed, transferred, or expended for any other purpose, and it's the intent of the legislature that of it, $500,000 be one time. I'll answer any questions if there are any at this point.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Ravelli? Representative Haroldson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Going back to it, again, we have a July 1st effective date. Asking the same question again, that puts us right in the middle of a fire season, trying to figure out a module that kind of seems contrary to maybe what we're intending. So Forrester Norris, is that something where if that were to go to an effective immediately concept, that could be something that you guys would be able to utilize and work with?
Forrester Norris.
Chairman Bear, Representative Haroldson, yes, that would be excellent and could also be put within the governor's budget too.
Could you repeat that last?
Could also be thought of as a footnote in the governor's budget as well.
Okay. My question was about the amount. The extra 3 or 4 months puts it at about 1.8 million. Is that what you would come up with, Mr. Richards?
Mr. Chairman, I think that would be
prudent to do that?
Would be prudent, yes. I would also note, just for the committee's knowledge, this is $706,727 less than their agency's request. So even though it looks the same as what is being requested by the governor for one of his 2 modules, it's at a substantially lower amount.
Can we get an explanation for that?
Yes, Chairman. So from my gathering, this is off of an estimate that was provided. First of all, I think it's, yes, within 700,000. Some of it is because when we provided this, it was an estimate. And one of the things in the governor's module is you have a regional manager, and then you have 1 full-time module leader. This doesn't specify, but it's probably budgeted to 2 module leaders and not the regional manager. That is probably the difference. What the governor's module is very effective in how, when he took the county's request, we obviously have a gap in higher level leadership and need in overseeing large-scale fuels projects as well. And so by having that regional manager, there's an expectation that those fire trainers are going to have to help fill in at that module level, and they'd be at that same module level. So reduced a position in the module between the 2 module crew bosses and made them 1, and then had a regional manager overseeing it in the field.
All right, is that clear as mud to everybody?
Mr. Chairman?
Clear as mud.
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So looking at that, Forrester Norris, is that the structure that's a structure that you would like to see take place in this draft, correct?
Chairman Bear, Representative, it would be the recommendation to, the governor's module is the most thought-through, effective for state forestry and wildfire suppression is that setup.
Okay. So that 2.1, now we're going to be closer to 2.5, I think.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Please.
The governor's request was for 2.286 million, and if you take that for 27 months as opposed to 24 months, you get 2,572,000.
All right. So we have some decisions to make. Any more questions for Forrester Norris or Ms. Ravelli? Okay, seeing none, what's your pleasure? Move the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I would say that I believe that we've got, I personally am seeing probably 4 different things that would need to be amended on this bill.
Okay.
One, changing seasonal at-will contract employee positions to temporary full-time positions, which gives state forestry the ability to have the most leeway with those positions, that 8-month or 9-month positions and 6-month positions. We have the fiscal note change from 1.58 to 2.572. And then we have an effective date of April 1st, 2026. And so that would be the changes that I see need to take place in here, as well as a regional manager conversation. And so my thought is, those are amendments that need to be placed in here. We would have to honestly figure out where they line in and where they read in properly. So if it's the pleasure of the body to bring 2 bills on Friday morning, we can do that, or I can work on doing all the amendments right now to the best of my ability.
Okay, well, I have a motion to move the bill.
Oh, we
And
do.
ask first of all if I have a second, and then we can have that conversation. Seconded by Sherwood. Okay, so the bill has been moved. You've got some ideas for amendments. That's what we do here.
Yep.
And I think these are the kind of discussions we need to have, because I think we're putting the bill at risk with some of these changes. So let's work the bill. Okay? So be ready, Representative Harrelson. Page 1. Okay, moving to page 2.
Mr. Chairman, I have some amendments on page 2.
Representative Harrelson.
Okay, page 2, line 1, where it says 2, numeric 2 shall be full-time employee positions, 1 module leader, and 1 regional manager. And I'd ask our staff if there's better language to put that in there. And then on line 2, strike seasonal at-will contract employee and insert temporary full-time employee positions. And then on line 3, remove at-will contract employee and insert temporary full-time employee. And then on line 11, 10 and 11, remove 1.58 million and insert 2.572 million in written language as well as numerically.
Okay. Staff, do you have that? I missed the second part of that, but as long as you've got it, that's fine. Okay. You don't have it? Okay, so I'm going to have Mr. Richards kind of read that back from his point of view.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, on page 2, line 1, 2 shall be full-time positions, comma, one being a module leader and one being a regional manager. On page 2, line 2, after seasonal, strike at-will contract and insert temporary full-time. On page 2, line 3, strike at-will. Page 2, line 4, strike contract and insert temporary full-time. Page 2, line 10 and 11, strike $1,580,000, insert $2,572,000. And obviously, Tamara is your legislative counsel, so she can correct me if I misspoke.
Tamara, does everything look kosher?
Yes, that looks good. I might mirror the language if you would like to be specific about the regional fire manager, or just mirror the language used in the budget bill, which is the full-time permanent regional fire manager and a full-time suppression module leader.
Okay, that's okay. All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Guru. Discussion on the amendment. We're past public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this bill?
No, sir, but I do appreciate the recognition.
You bet. Is there anyone online? Thank you for the reminder. We have passed that, but you're right, we should have checked with that. Okay, so discussion on the amendment.
Question.
Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I consider myself as frugal and as much a budget hawk as anybody in the room. But when you've gone as far as we've gone with the idea, and the experts in the room suggest there's a better way to do it, I'm going to defer to them. And therefore, I vote on this increase.
Okay. $1 million, okay. All right, any other discussion on the amendment? All right, question having been called, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, that carries. All right, continuing on, any other actions on page 2 before we move on? Okay, page 3.
Mr. Chairman?
Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would suggest an amendment on page 3, line 8, to change the effective date from July 1st, 2026 to April 1st, 2026.
All right, motion's been made to change the date to April 1st, 2026, seconded by Senator Guru. Discussion on the amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor of this amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay, that carries. All right. Any further discussion on the bill in general? Seeing none, Mr. Richards, please take the roll.
Members of the committee, the motion is on 26 LSO 0310, working draft 0.5 as amended. Representative Almand.
Aye.
Representative Angelos.
Aye.
Representative Haroldson.
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood.
Aye.
Representative Smith.
Aye.
Senator Driscoll. Senator French.
No.
Senator Guru.
Aye.
Senator Larson.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Salazar. Chairman Bear.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion is adopted.
Okay,
Do you have a preference of House or Senate?
I think with Representative Haroldson being very much in tune with that bill, we'll go ahead and take that to the House with no objection from my co-chair. Okay. All right, that'll be a House bill. All right, thank you very much. And we'll probably set a time Friday morning, so we'll try to not interrupt your schedule in Washington best we can. Okay? To deal with the other bill. And now, I believe Mr. Richards, Representative Sherwood will present the next two bills.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment?
Yes.
I voted aye on that, getting that forward. I'm not sure I'll be on the floor, so I wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Thank you for that comment. Representative Sher, would you please introduce yourself to the, I'm teasing you.
I can, Mr. Chairman, committee.
No, please proceed.
These seats feel really different. This view is different. Thank you, committee, for providing time for this conversation. Again, this is an extension of the work that we did in the interim with the idea of setting up our forestry staff and those who are out on the front lines for us fighting fires, setting them up for success. When it comes to recruitment and retention, the state is not competitive with our federal partners. And so we want to make sure that there are equity and there are reason for our hardworking staff to stay in these positions and continue to do the great work that they are doing. So in front of us today, we have working draft 301, and this is version 0.5, State Forestry Division retirement plans. So again, the theory behind this one is to move existing staff from correctional and who are in OSLI into retirement plans that are more competitive with what the federal government is offering. Good news is we, as a state, already have retirement plans that can fulfill this need. So page 1 talks about the compensation and benefits, authorizing firefighters to participate in retirement systems within the state. If you move to page 2, this section here is in relation to the Wyoming Retirement System's law enforcement pension retirement plan. And the proposal here is that we would be moving 6 current correctional forestry FTEs, and then the 2 that are proposed into the law enforcement pension retirement plan. If you flip to page 3, this section here is for 8 current FTEs to move to the Air Guard plan or the State Fire Guard plan. I understand the Wyoming Retirement System is updating the name of this plan to make it more clear what we're doing here. The appropriation to make this change is $181,000 from the general fund. Currently, this is proposed to be in the standard budget moving forward and would start in '26. My understanding is that there is somebody who wishes to continue in their existing retirement plan. They are free to do that. They don't have to be forced to move over to these plans. But if the bill is passed, then that opportunity opens up for somebody who's currently employed to change over or future employees to change over. And I would ask our very talented Polly Scott with LSO, she did provide a memo for us on this if there are questions on the calculation of that appropriation.
Any questions for Ms. Scott? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Scott, is she here? I don't see her. Oh, down there, okay. Thank you, Ms. Scott. Any questions for Representative Sherwood? Okay, we are all set here. All right, Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative, thanks for taking lead on this and walking it out. Obviously, we always talk about our retirement accounts with the idea of what is the long-term effect. A drop here creates a big ripple out there type of deal. And I know you said that you did talk with them. Is there any concern that they believe that this could throw an imbalance in any of these systems?
Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Representative. That is a great question. I mean, we spent interim on this topic. And so if you will look at the memo that's been provided on the top of page 2, there is at least a comment on the retirement plan contribution rates. Oh, actually, the expert just walked in the room. Is it okay with you, Mr. Chairman, if we? I was going to answer for you. No, it's great. It's great. There's no harm, but he's here.
Director, please come forward. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman.
Representative Harrelson.
Director, we were just talking about, I thanked her for doing the footwork on this. This is a great idea, I feel. But my question is, obviously, a small change in one area can have a large ripple effect down the road for, if we have the financial capability in these accounts to do what we're asking to do. And so with your guys' opinion, looking at these 8 positions and 6 positions, are you at all concerned about what that does long-term in these accounts?
Director.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harrelson, it's windy out there, by the way. This is the Air Guard firefighter plan. I've looked at the actuarial implications of adding employees to this plan. It's actually helpful. This plan's reasonably well-funded. It's 86% on a market rate, 84%, I think, on a actuarial rate. It'll be fully funded in 9 years if we stay in projections. But it does have a component to the contribution rate, which we call an amortization component. It's a higher contribution rate that catches up on full funding. So it's a little more than to pay for the benefit. It's also a component to catch up. And so when you have that situation, adding an employee is helpful. There's going to be a few more catch-up components than there otherwise would have been. It's not going to move it by a whole lot, but at the margin, it's helpful. Great question.
Director, you mentioned the Wyoming National Guard, but it's also the law enforcement officer plan as well. Is the same situation there, or is that different?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, same situation there. The amount of the amortization component's a little different, but it's still positive, and so it has the same general effect.
Okay. All right. Further questions? All right. Seeing none, is there any public comment on this bill?
Mr. Chairman, I might want to identify myself.
Yes, please do.
That comment came from David Swindell. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Retirement System, just for the
Thank you.
record.
And we appreciate you getting here to opine. All right, Ms. Childress, is there anyone online that would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure? Move the bill, moved by Senator Grew. Do I have a second? Seconded by Representative Harrelson. All right, any discussion on the bill? All right, let's go ahead and go through it, one page at a time. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Okay, any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Let's see, we're ready to take roll call. Mr. Richards, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the motion is on 26 LSO 0301, working draft 0.5. Representative Almand. Aye. Representative Angelos.
Aye.
Representative Harrelson.
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood.
Aye.
Representative Smith.
Aye.
Senator Driscoll. Aye. Senator French.
No.
Senator Garou.
Aye.
Senator Larson.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Salazar. Aye. Chairman Bear.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion is agreed to. House or Senate?
I think we'll take that to the House as well without objection from my co-chair. We're gonna have a lot of House bills, so I don't know how we're gonna balance this out. All right. Representative Sherwood, I think we're ready for your bill. Finish us out for the day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's finish strong. We are looking at 302, draft point 6. This is the firefighters' paid leave and hazard pay. The concept with this is the same, retention and recruitment, making sure that we are able to honor those who are working for us, and that we aren't losing these staff to federal agencies who do offer paid leave and hazard pay for the same work. Page 1 of the bill, again, authorizes firefighters to receive hazard pay and paid time off. What that means is if they are in the field for 14 days, that they would be authorized to have at least 2 days off for rest. Page 2. This relates to our correctional forestry crew supervisors, our correctional crew supervisors, our correctional forestry crew managers, and any other person in a wildland land firefighting occupation employed by the State Forestry Division under OSLI. This relates to work that is deemed hazardous in accordance to federal standards. So again, aligning this with the same policies under BLM and Forest Service. Allows the employee to be eligible for paid time off in accordance with those federal standards. Section 2 on page 2 is an appropriation. This is $390,000 from the general fund. The intention is that this appropriation would be included in the standard budget moving forward. On page 3, you see that this would be effective July 1st. I think I would have a similar question about the benefits of moving this to an effective immediately. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will take any questions. And relating back to the memo that was so graciously provided, there is a definition in here about what hazard pay is. So if you look on page 4 of that memo, let me make sure. My understanding, these are, bottom of page 3 on the memo. Hazard pay identified by the feds and the BLM Orange Book. Things like heights, climbing above 50-foot structures. I would pass out, that sounds horrifying. But this is performing firefighting on uncontrolled fires, climbing above 50-foot structures, tree climbing, low-level flying, groundwork beneath hovering helicopters, and work in rough and remote terrain. So that's what we mean by hazardous conditions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Questions for Representative Sherwood? Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this is probably more for Director Norris. Having employed literally hundreds of people over the last 20 years, I heard you express a frustration. This centers around that. You spend the time getting somebody trained. You spend the time getting them just the way they like them. They stay around a year or two and they understand that now they have a marketable skill, and you lose them to someone who is basically taking advantage of the investment that you've made. Could you give me an idea of how often this happens? Maybe a perspective of how many people this would affect that you have employed, and is this something that happens more than half the time, or is it I just want to know how big an issue it really is.
Forster Norris.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Representative. It happens with all of our aviation, our permanent aviation heli-base managers. They end up going to the BLM. Half of our forestry fire staff end up, the BLM, Wyoming BLM, is an excellent recruiter of Wyoming State Forestry Division. And so we have, in the last 2 years, lost approximately 7. And then we had a district forester go to the Forest Service too. So we've seen the staff that have the fire skills go to the agencies that have the fire benefits with them. And I created a table, and I can share this handout with you. I went and asked the Western states in particular about the benefits that they provide. And for hazard pay, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Alaska, Arizona, they all have hazard pay. So, and I can hand this out, but we don't do hazard pay. We currently don't have a firefighter retirement. We also don't yet implement paid leave after a fire assignment. And this table kind of shows you the breadth of what all the other western states are doing. And they are, the ones that are trying to stay competitive are definitely adding these benefits into their fire packages.
Follow up? All right, other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up public comment. Do we have anybody in the public that would like to speak to this? And Ms. Childress, anyone online? Okay, we'll close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Senator Grew. Seconded by Representative Pendergraft. All right, let's walk through the bill. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Senator Grew.
Page 3, line 16. Did we want to change that to, I'm looking at the author now. Do we want to change that to effective immediately? Oh, looking at you, Trey. Representative Sherwood.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to defer to our state forester for some
Okay.
feedback on that. Thank you.
State Forester Norris.
Chairman, Senator Guru, and Representative, effective immediately or June 1st, April 1st, I guess our helicopter comes on May 1st usually, so maybe May 1st.
Okay, May
Do we have a
1st.
motion?
Motion to change on line 16, say effective May 1st, strike July, add May 1, 2026.
Second.
Representative Sherwood, did we get a dollar amount on this one?
Mr. Chairman, currently the footnote on page 2, line 21 is $390,000. I would defer to our staff to see if that changing that date changes that number.
And I can see that we might need to change a date on this paragraph as well. Ms. Richards, do you have a revised number for that?
Mr. Chairman, in addition to the conforming change as to the date on page 2, line 25, on page 2, line 20 and 21, the 390 would increase to $422,500.
Any questions? Everybody got that? Senator Grew, is that friendly?
422,500, changing lines 20 and 21 numerically and verbal.
Okay. All right, I have a motion, seconded by Representative Harrelson. Discussion on the amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor of Senator Grew's motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that carries. Page 3, any further changes to page 3? Comments on page 3? Okay. Any comments on the bill in general? Seeing none, Mr. Richards, will you please take the roll?
Members of the committee, the motion is on 26 LSO 302, working draft 0.6 as amended. Representative Almand. Aye. Representative Angelos. Aye. Representative Harrelson. Aye. Representative Pendergraft.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Aye. Representative Smith.
Aye.
Senator Driscoll. Aye. Senator French.
No.
Senator Guru.
Aye.
Senator Larson.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Salazar.
Aye.
Chairman Bear.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion is adopted. House or Senate?
House. Without objection. Okay. Mr. Richards, any further business?
Mr. Chairman, no further business. Tomorrow, I believe, on your agenda is issues of higher education, including the Wyoming Community College, University of Wyoming School of Energy Resources.
Mr. Richards, Friday morning, do we need to start earlier to finish up that bill?
Mr. Chairman, you were scheduled to tentatively scheduled to work through lunch and adjourn at 1. I think adding an additional 15 minutes max, it would still be roughly 1. You could certainly start at 7:30 if you wanted to ensure an early departure.
Is there any objection to starting at 7:30? I think, Mr. Co-Chair, you'll be chairing that day.
I think we should start at 7:30 because we will leave at 1.
Okay, we will,
Let's do 7.
Come on, let's go. I'm here at 6, so it doesn't matter to me.
That'll work for me.
all right, if we could make that change to 7:30 for Friday morning. Okay? All right. Without objection, we'll go ahead and adjourn. We're adjourned.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to invite the committee. Wendy has arranged a tour if anyone wants to